Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be going over challenge modes specifically for the secret or side bosses, whatever you want to call them, in Aquila. That would include the Gladiator, Gladiator Dimachaerus, I think that's how you say it, as well as Squid, and then finally, as well as Cronus. So we're going to be going over all three of those bosses and the challenge modes and how to do them, right? I didn't want to make specific videos for each of these guys because there's not too much to explain because there's only one simple cheat behind them. Majority of my challenge mode videos, they have a lot more things that are involved, but for these guys, there's only one simple gimmick that you have to worry about, and that's really it. So instead of making separate videos, I thought I would just compile them into one big one where I just talk about all three in this video. Of course, later in the week or maybe like in the next couple days, you will see challenge modes for Mount Olympus, Atlantia, as well as Tartarus. So those will come out within the next couple days, and then I have plenty of other videos lined up for you guys, and yeah, a lot of things I want to be talking about in the next couple of days. So be sure to subscribe, look out for those videos, and I appreciate all the people that have been, you know, giving me a bunch of support on all the videos that I've been posting quite recently or like the past couple weeks. I do really appreciate it as well. On that grind to 8K subs, so if you are brand new here, don't forget to subscribe. I post a lot of guide content on the channel that majority of people don't really know about. So hey, there you go. But let's start off with Gladiator Dimachaerus. Now, the only gimmick that he has and how to get there realistically, I feel like I should always talk about in my video because some people still forget how to get there. I don't know. But if you go to Mount Olympus, you go all the way up, you know, to the far down area where there's like the little chess pieces. I call them chess pieces, but they're like the little statues that you control where you like fight who's who. A little bit past that is a gate. If you go in that gate, you can see Gladiator Dimachaerus there with a bunch of minions. I believe those minions are called Doom Bones. I'm trying to like go off on top of my head, but yeah, he has like 3 ice minions as well as he's balanced, and he has like his own gimmick. Realistically, his only gimmick that he does is at the beginning of every round, he does a natural attack on the wizard that has the lowest current health. Not percentage, it's just whoever has the lowest current health, and he'll just do like a natural attack that does like around 180, I believe, and then it will do an additional effect depending on your school. So if you're Storm or Death, it will put a 55% hex on you. If you're Ice or Myth, it puts a 150 damage balance overtime. And then if you're Life, Fire, or Balance, it just puts a weakness on you, minus 35. So only just I want you guys to preface this and remember this. It's only on the person that has the lowest health. So if you are a person that has the highest health, don't worry about this cheat. So it should be pretty straightforward. Now, you got to remember though, with this specific challenge mode compared to the other two that I'm going to be talking about, it's a level 30 challenge mode. So you are very limited on what you can use in these fights, especially in Mount Olympus as a whole. But what we're going to be doing involves 2 storms. But before I go into that, I do want to preface that, hey, you don't have to have 2 storms for this fight. I just want to preface this. I am just going to be going specifically over storm strat, but if you were going to use like other schools like Fire, Myth, whatever, realistically, just the TLDR is just spam a bunch of universal buffs and just AoE spam. Yeah, have someone just one-shot the boss, and then after that just AoE spam. So if you're like a Fire Myth, you guys have access to Meteor and Humongo Frog. If you're a Death, you have access to School Pip spells. Those would be Ship of Fools or Deer Knight, right? If you're Life, you have Rat Spin. So you can use those things to just spam on the mobs and just have a one person just simply single target the boss, maybe help him out, buff stack, like I said, couple universal buffs to, you know, spread across the enemy, like Hex, Mass Hex, I mean, as well as, you know, windstorms, maybe a bubble, you know, you get the whole gist, right? So just, that's realistically all you do in this fight. But let's go over the storm strat of what I've been doing and what I've been doing for the majority of Mount Olympus. I call it the no fizzle strat. You can call it whatever you want, but I was trying to make a strat where you just don't fizzle, because the thing is with Mount Olympus, you cannot hit the accuracy cap of like to the point where you don't fizzle. You're always going to have a chance to fizzle depending on the card. So like, for example, if you're using like Storm Shark, you're going to fizzle. If you're using Lightning Bats, you won't fizzle unless you have tier 5 where it gives you where you're only required to have 20 accuracy, which is easily doable on a storm for challenge mode. Because remember, you are getting scaled down. So what we're doing is called the no accuracy strat, where you spam precisions, you use Pigsy, you Storm Shark the boss, you use Path B specifically, you use guidance, yes, guidance, as well as some windstorms and some Mass X and some bubbles. And then just after that, you just spam your Storm Sharks, spam your Lightning Bats, and that's realistically the fight. Now, the reason why we're using Precision on the person in the first slot is because they don't fizzle their Pigsy. When you are using Pigsy on a different school, even life in general, you have a chance of fizzling your Pigsy. So just to circumvent that, you're putting a Precision on yourself. And then after that, you also are using Lightning Strike. Now this is a curveball that I wanted to throw in there, but you're using Lightning Strike that's specifically on a Storm Wizard. What Lightning Strike does is, if you remember it, you get it at the beginning of the game as a Storm, which I think everyone clowned on it because it's like, why do I need this? Well, it's time to shine realistically, where you use Lightning Strike on an ally so they get 25 extra Storm accuracy. So that's to circumvent you fizzling your Storm Sharks. So that's realistically why we're doing that. As well as, since we are using Pigsy, we are using Path B Storm Shark, where it got buffed in Test Room, where essentially if you use a Path B Storm Shark, it gambits a hot and in turn does more damage. It basically does the same amount of damage as like a Kraken or a Zilla, especially if you have max tier. Realistically, you only need tier 2, but hey, I mean, if you have a higher tier of Storm Shark, that's amazing. You can do more damage on Gladiator. But that's realistically what we're doing on round 1 too. Of course, we do have some mass trap shenanigan. You can get storm trap, mass storm trap from 2 different wands, like the headmaster wand, of course, as well as I believe Wastelander, and I think there's one from rematches. I'm trying to remember this all on top of my head. And then mass hex, same thing. You can get from the headmaster, or you can get from an amulet, or you can get, for if you're on specifically a balance, you can use the wand as well. So a couple different things that you can do. And then for round 3 and 4, we're using guidance. Now, I know some people might question guidance because where am I supposed to get this as an item card? If I'm not alive. Well, if you are alive, of course, you'll have guidance. It's not that big of a deal. Now, for other sources, realistically, all you use is, I believe it's called a pet called Merry Fairy. It's a pet that you can get in the kiosk, in the hatchery. Literally, what you do is you take that pet to Ancient, and it gives you 2 guidance item cards. And that's literally what we're using. So you don't need no weird niche setup. You're just grabbing guidance from a pet. So definitely look for that pet in the kiosk. It gives you 2 guidance cards. If you don't want to use that pet and you want to use something else, go for it. There are pieces of gear that give you guidance if you are not alive, of course. You can use a Wastelander deck, I believe, should give you a guidance card. I believe there's some other decks as well that you can get from the rematches that give you a guidance card, and there's a couple other stuff like an amulet and some other things that give you guidance. So just be on the lookout. Realistically, the easiest one to get, like I said, for the 2 item cards that give you guidance is just use the Merry Fairy pet. That will be your best bet. And as I said, you can get it from the kiosk in the hatchery. But yeah, using those cards will just make it so the people with Storm Sharks don't fizzle. And then, yeah, you just kind of just buff stack spam into the Storm Sharks and the minions. And, if you fail Pip, etc., just use Bats. You'll kill. Even if they shield, with the amount of buffs you have, you'll kill. But as I say, this is just one of the many strats that are used for Gladiator. Like I said at the beginning of this, before I started talking about the Storm strat, if you want to use other strats, just spam Meteors, spam Humongo Frogs. Have a person that just targets the boss. There's so many ways you can do this. Do what your heart desires. Basically is what I want to tell you guys, and that's realistically it. That's Gladiator Dimachaerus, and now we can move on to the next challenge mode boss. The next challenge mode boss we're going to be talking about is Squid, another challenge mode boss that's very easy. Now, the only cheat that I realistically that's worth talking about in this fight is that, hey, you want to kill all of them at the same time. Obviously, the Squid has 4 tentacles, 2 of the boss ones and then 2 of the small ones, of course. But killing all of them at the same time doesn't make it so they respawn. Yes, if you were to kill one, they're gonna respawn eventually, and you have to kill like a wave or so, right? And just to circumvent all that, we're just gonna one-shot all of them at the same time. So if you have this setup where you use basically 3 weaving blades into a Sirens. Now, of course, you don't need 3 weaving blades, you only need 2. So if you have 2 people that are storm weaving, that's perfect. You can have those players buff the storm and just go for Sirens. We're gonna go for a 2-round strat on this, specifically because we're using Donate Power 3. Donate Power 3, what it does, it gives the person that you targeted 3 extra pips. So that's why we're able to Sirens on round 2. Now, of course, make sure you're hitting damage cap, make sure you're hitting pierce cap, and make sure you're hitting accuracy and pip cap. Very easy to do on 70. It's a little bit easier to do on 70. It was way more annoying to do for 30 because the stats that were required are a little bit more annoying, but very easy to do. Now, I know some people are gonna be like, well, Almond, what if I want to run a balance or something like that in this fight? It's not the biggest deal in the world. The person 1, slot 1 can be a balance. And let's say someone doesn't have a storm hitter, realistically just turn this into a 3-round and just go for an Orthrus. If you have a myth hitter, like I said, Orthrus, and then if you want to use other school hits, go for it. But myth and storm kind of go well in this fight. Storms can 2-round it, but if you don't have like the weaving stuff, just turn it into a 3-round and just use 35 buffs. It's not the end of the world, just adding another round. As well as for myths, you're going to have to make it into a 3/4 round depending on the buffs. So just be wary of that when you're doing Sand Squid. There's nothing insane to talk about with this fight. There's no insane cheats. It's just the fact is you want to kill all of them at the same time so they don't have to worry about the respawn cheat. Yeah, that's the TLDR of Sand Squid. But yeah, you don't need the weaving blades. I'm just giving an example strat, and this is kind of what you would do if you want to make it the fastest possible way. But if you don't have, you know, the Donate Power 3 amulet or the jewel, or like a hat, then what's it called? Then just turn this into a 3-round, not the end of the world, and just add more 35 buffs, and that basically fixes everything. So there's Sand Squid, and yeah, like I said, with the myths, just extend it another round, or another 2 rounds if you need to, or if you're using another school hitter. Yeah, very straightforward. But that's realistically it for Sand Squid, and I will probably post more strats regarding Sand Squid in the slides that are in the Discord whenever I post them, if for other schools. I'm not gonna do that every time. It's just that the fact is, it's a really easy fight. It should be common knowledge. It's just a really easy fight. Just kill everything at the same time. You'll be good to go. So now we can move on to Cronus. Now, Cronus is a pretty easy one, just like Sand Squid. I feel like out of the 3, Gladiator requires a little bit more thinking, just because the fact is, you know, you can fizzle, you know, it's a level 30 cap fight, so there's a little bit more thinking to do. But when you go do Cronus and when you go do Sand Squid, you don't really have to think. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. So what you're doing in Cronus is literally the exact same thing that you did in Sand Squid. If you have 3 people actually weaved into Storm, obviously everyone except Balance. If you're a Balance Wizard, it's a little bit annoying for what I'm trying to talk about. But if you have 3 people that are weaved into Storm, it can even be a Storm Wizard that's weaved into Life, because you can use that blade, and that stacks of course as well. You can actually kill on round 2, but this is assuming you hit damage cap and pierce cap. But there's another variable that you have to hit, which is have a lot more crit than you think you would. So make sure you're using like a Daemonic Road, make sure you're using like Shabalba Wand or something like that to have more crit. Because the fact is, the more crit you have, the more damage you'll do with your multiplier. So if you just have like, you know, just plot armor on with like, you know, maybe like a Headmaster Wand, you're not going to do as much damage when you crit. But if you do crit and you have a high damage multiplier, you can actually kill on round 2. Just like I said, though, it requires a little bit more crit rating than you think you do. But don't stress, if you don't kill on round 2 or if you don't crit, it's not the end of the world. You can just kill on round 3 with the lightning bats. You have a 65 buff because the sirens converts your remaining blades into 65 blades, as well as you still have reinforce on you, and someone in that fight most likely used the storm bubble. So that's basically triple buffed, so I wouldn't stress too much about you know, you're not killing with that sirens. Now, I know a lot of people are going to read this and be like, well, I mean, this is kind of ironic. I don't have storm weaving. I don't have all that. It's still a 3-round fight. It's still a 3-round fight. I mean, like I said, you can 2-round it if you have the crits and stuff like that. But if not, it's like a 3-round fight. But if you're going to 3-round at that point, you can do this strat where you just don't need any weaving at all. And then you just add more buffs. You realistically just add more 35 buffs. One thing you do have to keep in mind is I don't recommend really trapping in this fight, because Cronus will remove the traps that are placed on him. They will be remaining on the mobs, but on Cronus himself, he will remove those. So that's something that you have to be wary about. The one thing I do want to actually preface as well, if you are trying to do the quote-unquote 2-round strat, you do need donate power 3, so you do need like a triangle jewel or like a hat or an amulet. But if you are trying to do the 3-round strat and you just want, you know, no weaving at all, you do still need donate pips. So donate pips from, you know, you can train that. I usually train it on all my characters from the balance school. I do recommend it. But if not, you can get some TC, you can get like an amulet, you can get like other forms of getting it. Donate pips is very easy to get. Or if you want a cantrip, I don't really recommend cantripping, but if you really do not have a way of getting donate pips out of all your friends, I guess you can cantrip. I don't really recommend it. Or you can just extend it to another round, or you can just hit with the Stormlord. That's some options. Now, I know some people are going to be like, hey, Almond, well, I'm not a storm. Same thing as I said with Sand Squid, is just have a myth hitter. have another school that can hit, maybe like a death with sand, or the, I was about to say sandworm for some reason, I don't know. You can have a death that uses like scarecrow or something. You can have like a myth, like I said, using Orthrus, and just buff stacking them with their respective buffs. Just make sure it's a bunch of 35 buffs, and you can kind of 3 to 4 round it depending on the school, and it's pretty straightforward. Just, you know, spirit blades, all that stuff. You guys get the whole gist. There's nothing crazy about it. There's no in-depth, I have to do in-depth analysis. It's a very straightforward fight, just like Sand Squid. The only fight out of these 3, as I stated earlier, that requires more thinking is Gladiator, just because the fact is 30, it's a 30 level cap. It's not no 100, it's not no 170, it's 30, right? It's very unique to its own self. But if they ever add like level caps to like Pigsy, for example, then that fight is definitely going to change 100%. But Pigsy, since it's a lore spell, it doesn't really have a level cap on it at all. So you can kind of use it in those, you know, in the level 30 dungeons. So that's why it's unique to use in that specific dungeon. But that's basically it, right? That's why I wanted to make a separate video just talking about these 3 bosses, because there's not too much to really talk about when it comes to these fights, other than just, hey, this is just a general idea of what you would do and what I was doing when I was doing my challenge mode runs. Of course, I am a little bit late on this. Hey, I would have posted this within the first couple days of of challenge mode coming out for Aquila, but you know, I got priorities, I got things to do, and just haven't had the time. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm letting you down, but hopefully, you know, within this week, I get some videos done. Aquila will be done video-wise. I've already finished all the challenge modes, everything like that. I'm just slacking a little bit when it comes to making all the content. So here's the video basically of us talking about the side bosses, secret bosses, whatever you want to say. And then later this week I will have videos for Mount Olympus, Atlantia, and Tartarus. So be on the lookout for those, and I will be posting slides in the Discord once all the videos are done and uploaded, just so I can post all of them first, and then after that I can post all the slides in the Discord. So if you want to see any of the slides or mentioned in this whole video, check out the Discord. I will be posting them in there within the week, I assume, or maybe early next week. So be on the lookout for all that, and then a lot of other cool videos coming out soon. Just have to have time to edit all this stuff together. And for the dungeons, I do want to preface this, if you're still watching the video at this point, whenever I do upload the Mount Olympus and Atlantia and Tartarus videos, I will have deck setup slides on the slides essentially in the Discord. But hopefully that helps. I know some people I was going back and forth with, like, we should really, you know, you should really make slides just with deck setups on them so people can get a better understanding of what they're packing. And I was like, you know, that's valid. I did that for the heat raid. The heat raid, I did that. So I might do that again for these types of dungeons, because it's not a singular fight, you're doing a whole dungeon. So having a deck setup slide is actually very well done for those people that are just visual learners, which, hey, just like me, I'm a visual learner. But enough yapping, that is it. You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions on these bosses. Definitely farm them if you are trying to get, I guess, Spellements. I mean, not really. I mean, you're probably doing these challenge modes because you're trying to get the badges. And maybe the gear, maybe. Maybe. But that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Appreciate all the people that subscribe. Join the Discord, link down below. We're at like 2.2k members or some absurd thing like that, and I want to keep getting more people in that server. I want to get to 3k and then eventually 5k members in that Discord, and maybe I'll do something. But that is it. Enough with the outro stuff. Guys, I've been recording like super late, and yeah. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.